Scanning for audio.
Hello and welcome to an actual Tin Dog podcast. Yes, not a daily Whostrology. Now, I've been a little bit concerned about the Whostrologies of late. Now, you know I've been dedicating quite a bit of my time in order to providing a recording of at least 380 individual morning shows. So I'm doing that during the off period. But of course, I'm not going to let the Tin Dog podcast go. I have got lined up massive amounts of Big Finish reviews. And of course, this week marked the release of Survivors. Now, I know it's strictly speaking not Doctor Who, and I was unfamiliar with Survivors as a product. I'd seen it mentioned on the I Love the 70s programmes that you see on TV. I was aware it was Terry Nation. I was even aware that there'd been a TV remake. Now, I'm not good with certain bits of sci-fi. When it comes to horror, the only type of creatures that I've got any issues with are zombies. They mess with my head. They're the ones that give me nightmares. Everything else I can totally live with, and the reason is that they can be reasoned with. I'm not completely thrilled with apocalyptic visions, mainly because I grew up in the 80s. You can see my old references to the whole imminent death, apocalypse, we're all going to die type things. But I've grown up as time gone by, and I've learnt to sort of work around these things, try not to think about them too much. But I also know that other shows and other podcasts absolutely have adored Survivors. Some people say that it kind of devolved as the series went by into, well, the good life with guns, where people are just trying to work out how crops work and fix hydroelectric plants, and that's fair enough because that's the reality. Now, I've kind of skipped ahead, so bear with me. Please don't stop bearing with me. Basically, Terry Nation, the man who brought us Blake 7 and, well, Angry Pepper Pots, created a TV series called The Survivors. It was on in the 70s, has been remade recently, and basically consists of one sci-fi aspect, just the one. It's not like Blake 7 where you've got faster than light travel, you've also got transporters or whatever you want to call them, and you've got mind control drugs, you've got all of that business, you've got everything thrown into Blake 7. Or Doctor Who, which is, let's face it, the kitchen sink of sci-fi. No, with Survivors, you've got one basic premise. A disease very much like seasonal flu manages to have an outbreak. Where it comes from isn't truly explained in this version, but in the TV opening credits, which let's face it is the only bit I've seen, there is a petri dish dropped somewhere, and then the disease spreads around the world. Everyone just thinks it's a normal flu, except people start dying. Almost everyone dies. Yes, it's a cheery, everyday story of death and destruction. It's the end of the world as we know it. Strictly speaking, however, it's not the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it in the 70s. That is an important aspect. So Big Finish have come along and bought the rights to the series. Not the book, the series. The spin-off BBC series that was released, which didn't get recommissioned, was lifted from the Terry Nation book. Apparently this, and this is the important bit, takes its inspiration from the TV series, but it's not just the inspiration, it's exactly the same time period and it runs parallel, and that's the true stroke of genius when it comes to this Big Finish release. Because characters from the TV series will be turning up in our audio narrative version of Survivors. So this box set has just come out and it is 4 stories long. I'm going to do a listen along and report back on each individual story. I haven't listened to them yet, I'm just aware of it, so I'm going to cut off now and then come back after I've done episode 1. In a few days' time you'll get the review of episode 2, 3 and then 4. As you journey with me, let's review Survivors Big Finish version and let's do it together. Are you with me? Very soon I'll be doing Dark Eyes 2, Charlotte Pollard box set series 1, wonder if there'll be a series 2, and of course some more main rangers. Please don't be despair. Please don't think I've abandoned the Tin Dog podcast or its reviews in favour of the Whostrology. That's just something nice to keep you going. This is the real meat and gravy. So I'll be back in a few moments with more talk of Survivors. Right. So, episode 1, well, story 1, disc 1, whatever you want to call it. Now, when you get these as downloads from Big Finish, you might not have ordered the discs. Beware that your meta tags may put the tracks in the wrong order. It may put the extras at the very beginning rather than at the end. So watch out for that. Don't listen to the extras until you've heard the whole story, because it will make it not as enjoyable. You'll know what's coming. I am so pleased that I listened to this story, basically the end of the world, while I was out shopping and driving and collecting and surrounded by people. I was wandering through the centre of Halifax, popping into Boots to pick up a toothbrush for my daughter, going back to car parks, driving through very, very busy roads, and I felt better because the reality of what was happening just kept the reality of what was on the audio at bay. Giving it a 1970s feel is, yes, I'll admit it, a touch of genius. That means that it's got a parallel to the TV series, which is great, and then the characters can cross over, that's great. But here we've got basically Big Finish's own creations. Now, I've not seen the TV version, and I promise you, after I've heard these, they are so good, I will be going back and getting the DVDs if I can find them, or borrowing somebody's old VHS or something, because I've got to see these things. First off, if you're used to the fluffy, lovely, light-hearted, alright, admittedly, some of the Big Finish stuff's a little bit darker, but this thing is pure drama, because it's only got the one science fiction concept, and the science fiction concept is something we all know very well. It's an outbreak of flu, something that we all get, seasonal, cold, but people just don't get better. They go downhill and they die. Very, very small proportion of the world gets it and then gets better. You do not know from the beginning of this story who is going to make it out alive. And I guess that's what the TV series was like. People will surprise you. But the most surprising, no, it's not even remotely surprising, because you know Big Finish right well. You know Big Finish hire the best actors. You know these people know their job. But it's still surprisingly how good the performances are in this. It's worthy of being on Radio 4 in the afternoon. It's worthy of being anywhere. It's top-notch, beyond top-notch. It will win massive awards next year. You can't doubt it. Admittedly, the 1970s setting does jar a little bit, because you're thinking while you're listening constantly, how would I react in this position? It's putting you in the positions constantly. It's great. Now, you've got Chase Marston playing an American. She played the Dabo girl in Deep Space Nine, a forgettable character, absolutely no offence paid. But here she commands. Yes, this place could have been played by Nicola Bryant, but she's great here, truly magnificent, in a part that could so easily have been just another obnoxious American. Takes the part, runs with it, makes it her own. And the reason she can do that is because most of her scenes are with the guy we know as Davros. Terry Malloy puts in an understated, calm, gentle performance here. He is definitively English. Yes, some of the tone and the resonance is similar to Davros, but that's it. The characterization, so that every so often you think he's going to snap and shout and rant, but this guy is so measured and controlled and lost. His character development and arc, if he survives the story, and there is no reason he shouldn't, mainly because he's already had the flu and got better, well, will be staggering. There's also a lecturer at a polytechnic, things that don't exist anymore because they've all switched over to become universities, well, in the majority. There are telex machines, there are no mobile phones, there are tape recorders, clunky, heavy, lovely equipment, things that use batteries, not stuff that recharges. There aren't houses with solar panels everywhere like there are in England, that if it happened these days, you'd go, right, let's move into that house so that we can have electricity. Electricity will not be as much of an issue if it happens now. The death, however, will be. The power cuts, everyone knew what they were like in the 70s. You feel like you're in the 70s. It's brilliant. So yeah, one cough and you're out, perhaps. But the characterization is superb. It's not cheery stuff, but I am so looking forward to episode 2. This was me just giving my instant reactions to episode 1 revelations. So at the moment you've got very desperate and split storylines. You've got a newspaper columnist, you've got an airport location, and you've got the Polytechnic location. All of which, well, it's all going to go so much worse. So don't buy this if you're of a nervous disposition or these things get into your head. There are plenty of other things from Big Finish, but if you do give in and you do buy it, it's so worth it. And this was just episode 1, story 1. So in a few days' time I'll come back after I've listened to episode 2. So until then, be seeing you.
We regret to announce that Parisian Airways Flight 305 to Charles de Gaulle has been cancelled.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions.
We assumed an incubation period of 5 to 7 days, followed by a fever lasting anything upwards of 24 hours. Beyond that, well, we're only starting to see that now.
Sorry, Mr. Redgrave. They're dead. This whole family. They're not breathing, not moving.
But I got better, didn't I? I got better, so they should have got better too!
We made the world so much smaller. Thought we were so clever. Nobody ever thought what had happened if it suddenly got big again.
This is Dr. James Gillison. Can anybody hear me?
Well, when the plague came, I was in Holland. When I flew back, came down the coast, I saw enough to know that what we've experienced in Britain is likely to be the same across the world.
You know what the times are like. There's disease.
I haven't spoken to anyone for days. I'm Jenny, by the way. Jenny Richards.
It's a matter of survival.
Survivors.
You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its connected properties are copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. Whostrology, a Time Traveller's Almanac, is available through Telos Publishing or Amazon. Visit www.whostrology.com for further information. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.